Good afternoon and welcome to Leadership Talks. This is the seventh episode of Leadership Talks in 2018 and the 21st Leadership Talks overall. This is a 20-minute Q&A every Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Time with an industry leader. And today's leader is Will Wise. Will is the Group VP for Reed Exhibitions, responsible for the security portfolio, which includes the ISE events globally. So welcome, Will.
Thank you so much for having me today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've looked at any of our recordings on YouTube, you'll know that the first question is, of course, about you. Can you just tell me about your leadership style, your personal leadership style?
Right. Yeah, I think when overseeing major events in the security and technology space, it is a team effort. So I think the first thing on my style is to set a very strong, inspirational, team-oriented dynamic, because it really is a group effort cross-departmentally and also with a lot of partners. So that's really important, creating that team environment, inspiring the team to really be thinking about, secondarily, sort of the immediate execution needs, but also how does that align to the strategy, but then also really helping the team think about visualizing the future. You know, what's the next 3 to 5 years going to look like, and setting that mindset. So with the big events, there is that juggling act of the immediate execution, but also making sure there's a really longer term view. So that's really important for how I lead the team and operate. I also think one of the things that has worked for me is being a student of the market. So really understanding the trends, the nuances across the industry. And in security, there's so many converging factors happening right now that are challenging, but also exciting. So making sure our team is in tune with that. But then I think that also for me means listening carefully, getting ideas from lots of sources of input, and then figuring out the right alignment. So just connecting those dots and ultimately empowering everybody to go make it happen.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all those changes in the industry, and I'd love to look in your 5-year crystal ball. But you're with Reed Exhibitions for about a year now. You've got a very strong background in IoT, tech in general, and of course events. Give me your thoughts on our industry and what sectors and technologies have the most growth opportunity.
I think what's been exciting about in the security industry and then broader IT is individually, if you look just back the last 5 to 10 years, there's a very strong number of different subset markets that are actually very large. So if you look at traditionally physical security, the growth in that for obvious reasons, given the security and safety demands and needs for the U.S. and the world. The cybersecurity industry is gigantic now. The whole networking and infrastructure industry has to support everything and telecom, very large. I think today the opportunity is how to get those all connected, how to converge the cyber and physical conversation, IoT, which is meaning everything being connected, and then taking that to the next phase of intelligence, which is why things like artificial intelligence are being talked about so much. So I think the next big phase is a lot of that integration and services, and not just thinking about products, but how does it all work for a solution. So ultimately, that's where I think the big opportunity lies is how to tie those elements together, and I think that's absolutely the case. I mean, look at today. It's rare that anybody has a desktop computer anymore. It's a mobile generated world, even for staff level people. But those tools, mobility based tools, are critical for out in the field and for security and safety purposes as well. So I think all of that is kind of ties together to the big opportunity.
So I'm going to ask some specific questions later on about specific or technologies that are emerging. But what are you doing differently at your events to embrace these growth areas?
I look at it along with our team at a couple different levels. One is the technology and product categories level, but also equally as important is the people side of it, and the talent building and what I call organizational readiness side of it. So, for example, with our ISC West event, which is our big flagship event for security.
Absolutely.
it's really been interesting to see this last couple of years, and I noticed it right away when I started a year ago, really assessing ISC West, and then throughout the past year going to ISC East in November, is the educational needs and demands are really interesting to track, and it definitely has to do with your traditional physical security facilities operations professionals having a lot of interest and demand for learning about cybersecurity and how to integrate the two. A pretty dizzying array of alphabet soup, IoT and AI and AR. These are really challenging topics to get your arms around. So these technology areas, including now drones and robotics, there's a lot that, it's one thing just to learn them on a surface level, like, okay, I understand it, but it's a whole nother thing to start evaluating a strategy, purchase criteria, the ecosystem you need to create. But then I think that naturally leads to saying, okay, I can't do it by myself in my own department. And we've been seeing this at our events, is cross-departmental teams coming more and more often. So IT professionals working with operations, getting the executive buy-in, partnerships with the integrators, that people collaboration element. So we're really looking to foster that, the cross-functional collaboration, getting those groups together. And in many cases, at our bigger events, seeing those teams come together to the event to experience it.
So you're just talking about the organizational readiness and the cross-functional team, the collaboration's got to have some challenges. What are they? What are you running into? Got to think.
I think in Silicon Valley, I'm based in San Francisco, there's a lot of lingo thrown around, but a classic is the whole IT, OT convergence and collaboration. That's very difficult to, it's a journey. You're seeing some organizations start to break down those silos organizationally. But I think naturally, and some of it comes down to human nature, is, if you're an expert in IT infrastructure and IT systems, and also when it comes to securing those systems, you're going to have a strong sort of focus on that and saying, okay, I don't know if I want anybody else involved here because it might create problems with the system, with the security. Same thing if you look at more on the operational technology side, sort of a traditional element of, okay, is this really, do I really need people working across silos? It also is, I think, a time management challenge, right? We're all really busy. I don't know if you're a security or IT professional or running events or running media organizations. Let's face it, there's only a certain many hours in the day. So those are challenges. And this is why I see, coming from Internet of Things market the last couple of years, the scenario of, okay, what's it going to take to actually start collaboration happening? What I've seen in anecdotes, meetings, research is it definitely takes executive buy-in and executive strategy. It's got to not just be by department. So those are some of the things that we're seeing.
You mentioned the education. Education is a huge draw for the ISC events. Take a few minutes and talk about your relationship with SIA, the Security Industry Association, who, from my vantage point, does an outstanding job developing and managing the education sessions. So talk about the relationship, and then I want to ask you about what are you expecting to be the hottest topics within the SIA education at West this year?
Yeah, the relationship we've had with SIA, ISC and SIA has been long running, very valuable. They're our sponsor of the ISC West and ISC East event. And one of the exciting things we've seen at ISC is the growth of the conference program this last 3 or 4 years. So we literally call the conference program SIA Education at ISC. And it's a very collaborative effort in terms of the programming committee, in terms of the session placement and evaluation. And we have both my content team here at ISC and Reed working closely with the SIA content team and advisory group. So it's a very positive collaboration. And we're up to, at ISC West coming up this April in Las Vegas, it's now got over 85 sessions across several tracks. So it's very, very comprehensive. We've also seen very strong satisfaction ratings and recommender ratings for the content program, which is, I think, shows how the partnership's been really working well on that education. So some of the things coming up here at ISC West is, it's interesting when you build a conference program, some of it is based on, okay, what were the hot topics from last year or more recent events. but also, like to your point, what's taking that crystal ball into effect. What are we hearing from the market? What are the needs, both from opportunity, but also challenges and anxieties, if you will. So, a couple of the new tracks we have at ISC West coming up are, one is on open standards and interoperability, and I think that speaks to the necessity and challenges of integration and interoperability amongst all these systems, all these devices that are having to be managed. So that's important. I think it also naturally stimulates different people having to come together for that kind of topic. So that's also get that people collaboration stimulus. We also are seeing and consciously focusing on younger gen security professionals with a lot of the advanced technologies and skill sets needed, but also just the direction of the marketplace and continued growth. Security professionals under the age of 40, we have sessions for that group as well. They're strategic focused, they're career focused for that. So the young gen security professionals, we've got content specifically for that group as well.
So if I can
the
just
other
jump
thing
in
is,
real quick, Wise.
Yeah.
Well, let me just jump in real quick to talk about the young security professionals. Clearly, technology is changing every day, and the pace of change, I think, is quickened, over the last couple of years than in the past. With that said, we've got a quote unquote younger generation who are, coming into the market and taking over the market. We've always been slow at adopting technology. Do you see that changing with this younger generation? And then when you say, what's your view of, maybe you have the demographic information for ISC West, the kind of the age difference, this year versus last year, the average age?
Yeah, those are good questions. I think in terms of the pace or of technology adoption, I think it does, historically vary by topic. If you even think about AI, artificial intelligence, when I first started in media and events in tech, back in around 1990, that was being talked about then, but so many different things have to come together, from infrastructure to systems to talent. So I think it does vary dramatically, but I think some of it has to do with urgency. So, I mean, look at security, both cybersecurity and physical security. When it comes to things like artificial intelligence, there's such an urgency to improve the security systems and how we're handling, getting more proactive security in terms of, safety and law enforcement. So I really think that helps drive the demand. The other thing is, on the commercial side, there's a lot of market opportunity. So the manufacturers and service providers, that represent for our exhibitors, for example, they're putting massive amount of R&D into improving these technologies. So I think those things together is what is helping stimulate the availability. But now, like you said, okay, how do you actually go make it happen? And that's what we all have to work on together.
Yeah.
On the younger gen side of things, I think it will be an assessment this year to see how the age groups evolve. As we get through the course of this year, that will be interesting to track, and we'll be certainly doing that. Both SIA and ISC have a focus on the younger gen security professionals. SIA has a great program called RISE, scholarships for younger gen security professionals. So together, we definitely think that's very important, not just for this year, but for the next decade.
And as you may know, Security Systems News for the past 10 years, we've done the 20 under 40, recognizing 20, people under 40 who've had an impact on their organization or the industry as a whole. And we do it for the integrators as well as for the end users. So yeah, we all see the need to, honor these folks and, bring them along into the industry.
Yeah, I think it's really important. So, to get together, initiatives we're all doing for that are very important. I think part of it too is making sure the dynamic of what events are like for the younger gen is important. Got to be more experiential, lots of meetups and networking opportunities. So we're definitely in tune with how events have to evolve to be exciting and innovative.
So let's just jump into ISC West real quick. What kind of new exhibitor growth do you see? And give me some examples of new exhibitors at the show this year.
Yeah, we're humbled the fact that ISC West has such strong momentum behind it. And this year is going to be bigger than ever for sure. The way we're seeing the tracking of attendance and also exhibitor support. In terms of brand new exhibitors, we're looking at ending up with over 200 brand new exhibitors, which is phenomenal. So that's going to provide, yeah, that's going to provide great content, but also lots of new companies and innovations for the attendees, for media to look at. There's a long list, of course, on with that many at the show. A couple big ones that are new to the event include, for example, Mercedes-Benz in a large booth, and also Convergent. Those are a couple prominent, very large companies. But the new exhibitors rank from across the board, from small to mid-sized companies, and across a very diverse amount of categories. So there's going to be a lot of innovation to find at the show. And our new product showcase program is always another key way for people to find new technologies, new companies at the event. That's also always very successful. I think, Tim, one of the things you and I talked about recently as well is this year new at the show is what we call the Emerging Technology Zone. And that's actually right on the registration level of the show, right between Reg and the food court. And that's a special area that we've launched for startup companies that are within their first 5 years of development as a company. So we're excited about that. We'll have roughly 40 plus companies in that emerging technology zone, which is an infusion of new companies to the show. And there'll be some investor aspects of that as well in terms of helping those kind of companies think about their funding and R&D roadmap. So that's another great source for the new companies at the event.
Excellent. You guys always seem to be creating new pavilions and new sections. Talk about the Unmanned Security and Safety Expo that you launched, I think, last year. And then if you can go into the Connected Security Expo and the Connected Home, which I think is growing quickly.
Definitely. Yeah, the Unmanned Security and Safety Expo was launched last spring, in conjunction with ISC West. And that's been a very strong growth area. It's naturally one where there's so much evolution going on right now with the use of drones and robots for security and safety use cases. The regulations process right now is intense. There's going to be a lot more rules and regulations established, including through DC and government and the White House in the next year. So that's an exciting area. So that is an area of the show floor that we started last year. We're going to have growth in it again. And what people can expect to see there are exhibitors across three key areas. One is the aerial vehicles, the drone systems, if you will, companies like Nightingale, DroneVolt, Hoverfly, also ground robots. So we're also covering the robotics for security. So companies like Nightscope, robotic assisted devices, Cobalt. But then also very importantly, and I think what is in the news a lot today is with literally millions of drones that are going to be in the sky in the next several years, that's a whole nother air traffic control, airspace security concern for just, even legitimate drones on making sure there's safe air traffic, but also certainly a concern for rogue drones or terrorism, stadium security, you name it. So the counter drone or anti-drone part of it is also very well represented. Companies like Dedrone, SCI, Fordham, you'll see them at the show as well. So it's an exciting growth area for sure. And we also are, along with ISC East this year, have actually launched a full standalone Unmanned Security Safety Expo to take place in New York in November. So that's going to be a continued big expansion of serving that market in New York.
Excellent. There's no doubt that ISC West clearly is the premier event for the industry. ISC East, however, I got to say that over the last, say, 5 years, it's really grown and become a very, very strong regional show. I'm, this past year, I was extremely impressed by the layout, the hall, all of what you guys did for this year was outstanding. So
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
lots of opportunity for New York for sure. But yeah, ISC West is going to be fantastic. Like you said, double the amount of companies in our connected security area, double the amount of companies in the connected home area. Just all these are drawing in a lot of great activity to the event.
Beautiful. So if there was anything we've got about, well, we don't really have a minute, but let's just say we have a minute. What would you like to say to our viewers that you want them? Obviously, you've said a lot about the ISC events. What do you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I would leave them with it.
Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. What I would leave with them with is we're here to support the community. We're an independent event organizer. The partnerships we have, the participation from the security practitioners, the media, the associations in the market. We want everybody to join in on that community to help the market go forward. We're in a very important industry. Clearly, every month we're reminded of that with things that are happening out in the market for security and safety. So let's all get involved and move the market forward together.
Excellent. You guys are clearly in a vital role for the industry, and we appreciate that. Will, I look forward to seeing you at ISC West, and thank you for your time today. You've answered a lot of questions, and you've really painted an incredible picture of the ISC events and what you guys do. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Yep. And thanks, folks. And we'll see you next week, Thursday at 12:30. Take care.